Long before Hurricane Katrina brought tales of sharks and alligators swimming in the streets of New Orleans, there was already many urban legends and ghost stories about Louisiana. From werewolves, vampires, zombies, and ghosts to tales of voodoo and witchcraft, Louisiana seems to have it all. Louisiana ghost stories are unlike any others, in part because many of them are based on true stories. Louisiana is known as a state where people disappear, mysteries remain unsolved, and the unexplainable happens regularly. There is something eerie about plantations. They seem to invoke images of tragedy and human suffering, despite their beauty. It is not surprising that many plantations are believed to be haunted by the people who worked in their fields or happened to die on their grounds. Considered one of the most haunted buildings in America, the Myrtles Plantation is a bed and breakfast hotel today and has been and continues to be the testing ground for many paranormal investigators. The drama of the Myrtles Plantation began in 1796 when General David Bradford, also known as Whiskey Dave, of the Whiskey Rebellion, fled to the Spanish colony and obtained a grant for 650 acres to start a new life. After his death, the plantation passed to his daughter Sarah and son-in-law Clark Woodruff. Clark Woodruff was known as an honest man with one flaw: an insatiable appetite for sex. It wasn't long until the slave girl Chloe caught his attention. Not given the choice, she began a sexual relationship with Woodruff that lasted several years. Worrying his wife would find out, Chloe began eavesdropping on the family's conversations. Woodruff caught her one day and, as punishment, ordered her ear cut off. From that day on, she was reported to have worn a green turban to cover her cut-off ear. Wanting revenge, Chloe decided to boil and reduce extracts of the poisonous oleander leaves, and she put that into a birthday cake. Her plan did not work completely. Only Sarah Woodruff and her two daughters ate the cake and succumbed to the poison. When it was found out who poisoned the family, Chloe was hanged and then her body thrown into the Mississippi River. Another popular death at the Myrtles Plantation is that of William Winter, husband of Sarah Sterling. The Winter family owned the plantation between 1865 and 1880. Unfortunately, William was shot on the porch of his house in the 1870s by E.S. Weber. There are two legends attached to his final moments of life. One says that in an attempt to reach his wife, William dragged himself up the stairs on the first floor, but died on the 17th step. Another version said he died in the arms of his wife on the 17th step. It wasn't until the 1970s, when the plantation was bought and turned into a bed and breakfast, that it became known as a haunted house. Guests started to report hearing strange noises, and many even reported the apparition of a young girl wearing a green turban. This apparition was caught on film by the owners in 1992. But Chloe is not the only paranormal resident at Myrtles. Some people have reported seeing other young girls in old-time clothing in windows and mirrors, with some claiming it was the Woodruff children they saw. Another legend attached to the Myrtles Plantation is that it was actually built on top of an old Indian burial ground. Some people have reported to see a Native American woman in a gazebo on the property. Many believe she is one of the people buried there long ago. Others have reported seeing William Winters reliving his last moments by loudly staggering through the house entrance and climbing up the stairs to the 17th step before disappearing. For many years now, there has been a tale making its rounds around the French Quarter about a Sultan and the massacre inside a Pratt Mansion. The story begins in 1836 when the mansion was built. Soon, a Turkish man claiming to be a sultan rented the house from a wealthy plantation owner. Immediately, the parties began. The house would seem to come alive at night with music, incense, and many young women. One morning, after one of the parties, a neighbor was taking a walk and noticed blood seeping down the walls and the steps. The neighbor immediately went for the police. Upon entering, they found the most vicious massacre ever seen. Every man, woman, and child in the house was dismembered, and body parts were thrown everywhere. When the police got to the courtyard, they found a grave with a hand sticking out of it, like it was reaching for life itself. The man in the grave was the Sultan. But here's the twist. The man was not actually a sultan, but a sultan's brother who escaped to New Orleans after stealing the real sultan's women and possessions. It is believed the real sultan hired assassins to kill his brother and everyone in the house. While the mansion has undergone many renovations and changes in ownership throughout the years, it has long been a place where hauntings have been a regular occurrence. Previous and current occupants of the house have reported seeing a man dressed in Middle Eastern clothing that disappears moments later throughout the house. There have also been reports of strange, unexplainable noises like screaming and shrieking. Sometimes the sounds of body parts hitting the floor have been heard. The LaLaurie mansion is considered by many to be the single most gruesome haunting in the United States. With over 180 years of reported violent activity, it's not a tale for the faint of heart. The LaLaurie family first moved into the mansion in 1832. The lady of the house, Madame Delphine, was known for hosting grand parties and events there. Although she was considered one of the most beautiful and intelligent women in the city, Delphine was secretly an insane and sadistic woman who tormented the slaves of the house. She was known to have chained the cook to the stove and even chased the slave girl off the roof with her whip. New laws preventing cruelty to slaves in New Orleans led to some of LaLaurie's slaves being taken away and sold at auction. That didn't slow down Madame Delphine. She would have her relatives buy back the slaves for her in secret. People started whispering about how quickly the slaves came and went from the house, until April of 1834, when the realities of what had been happening were exposed by a huge fire that the cook started in a suicide attempt. Firefighters found dozens of slaves chained up in a hidden corner of the attic, with many of them in cages. Others were found strapped to tables, some horribly mutilated, with limbs and organs in buckets stacked on shelves. The degree of torture LaLaurie put these poor souls through was worse than any serial killer known to the world thus far. Word of the evil quickly spread, and soon a large mob gathered to punish the woman. Unfortunately, it was too late. The family had escaped the city immediately after the fire, never to be seen or heard from again. When the victims were removed, neighbors took their anger out on the house, destroying almost everything. A short time later, the mansion was occupied again by newcomers to the city, and that is when the reports of hauntings began. Reports say that screaming and crying could be heard throughout the night, but nothing compares to the ghastly sight of the decapitated apparitions and angry spirits that were constantly seen roaming the halls and passing through the large rooms of the mansion. Throughout the years, the building has been many things, from a private school to apartments for the privileged. The reports of screams and apparitions has lessened, but occasionally tenants and visitors who know little or nothing of the cruel history linked to the mansion, report various unexplainable sounds and apparitions. What makes New Orleans so special is the nightlife, charm, culture, and so much history. It is one of the most unique cities and is considered one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. Of all the ghosts and vampires in Louisiana, the most mysterious to roam the streets is Jacques St Germain. Believed to be a descendant of Comte de St Germain, it is not clear when he was born, because reports from historical records report a similar man in the 1700s all the way back to the time of Christ. Comte was a successful alchemist, and his research was for achieving immortality. During the 1700s, he traveled Europe and is said to be fluent in 6 languages. Despite the records of his death, he was reported to have been seen all over Europe. Jacques St Germain came to New Orleans in 1902 from France. He was reported to have held a special feast for the city's elite. During the feast, he served a variety of delicious food that he did not take one bite of. He only kept drinking the red drink, which many people assumed was wine. Jacques St Germain became the center of attention again when he kidnapped a woman from a local pub and with alarming speed took her to his home and quickly bit her neck and drank her blood. The woman was saved when a friend pounded on the door and distracted Jacques enough that the woman broke free and got away. When police investigated the same room, they found bloodstains everywhere, but did not find the vampire. It has been reported that a mysterious figure known as Jack is still at large. The legends of Rougarou or Lougarou have been passed down through generations since Louisiana was settled. The Rougarou is similar to the werewolf. Wolves are native to Louisiana, and many times the creature of legend is replaced with dogs, pigs, and cattle. Generally, the creature is described as being pale white in color. Legends say the Rougarou wanders the streets at night looking for a savior in the crowds. It will cause trouble, provoking people until somebody kills it. With the first drop of blood drawn from the death blow, the beast will turn back into a human and reveal to his attacker its true name. According to legends, this usually happens in the small towns of Louisiana. Before taking its final breath, the transformed man will warn its savior that it cannot say a word of the incident to anyone for a full year, or he too will suffer the same fate and become the Rougarou. Parents have also been known to tell tales of the Rougarou to misbehaving children, warning them that if they don't straighten up, the Rougarou will visit them in bed that night. Madame Mineurcanal was a grand Creole woman that owned the house at the turn of the last century. Stories say that she was either the wife or the lover of Bernard Minari that took her own life by hanging herself, as well as her beloved little dog, on an overhead beam for reasons still unknown today. Sightings of a Creole look. The 2.5-story Mason house was built about 1836. It sits at the front of the property with a balcony on the second level and 3 full-length openings on each floor covered with shutters. Behind 5 sets of shutters are French doors that lead into the home. The 6th one on the ground level opens to a long, narrow passageway that leads to the stairs at the rear of the house. It is on the rear stairs and the second floor landing where something has been sighted. Sightings of a Creole-looking woman in white began shortly after World War II by a family named Ruiz. They reported seeing a woman in white walking with her little dog down the stairs and then disappearing. They nicknamed her Mineurcanal because of her tongue-twisting real name. Halfway between Monroe and Shreveport sits a small town of Gibsland, Louisiana, in Bienville Parish. This is where the infamous couple Bonnie and Clyde died on May 23, 1934, when the police from Louisiana and Texas cornered them in their stolen car and fired more than 100 bullets. Visitors and residents say that if you go to the site of their death on Route 154, 7 miles south of the Ambush Museum, the ghosts of Bonnie and Clyde make themselves well known. It is reported that you can still see their spirits lingering in the surrounding woods. Ghostly apparitions have also been reported to be seen in pictures taken in the area. Whether you visit for great music, stiff drinks, or sociable company, spirits flow freely in this old neighborhood bar, in more ways than one. The building was constructed in the 1880s as a firehouse, but when the 1918 flu pandemic hit, it was used as a makeshift morgue. From then until the 1970s, the history is clouded. Some people say it was a feed store, while others say it was a thrift store. But most people agree that during the 1970s, it was a flop house, a local watering hole for vagabonds, pimps, and drug addicts. In the early 1980s, the bar was named the Cypress Hollow, and the clientele was slowly improving. In 1997, the Spanish Moon was opened, turning the historical building into the successful establishment it is today. Staff and patrons have reported a variety of paranormal activity, the most common being a young man wandering the bar at night. He is reported to be dressed in 1950s era clothing and will go around turning on beer taps and pushing ashtrays around. Disembodied voices from upstairs has been heard after the bar was closed for the night. Vendors have also reported a sense of uneasiness or of being watched while in the empty bar. Tragedy struck the bar again in 2013 when a man was accidentally electrocuted at the bar. The legend of the Cajon Theory, or Follet, began in the bayou many years ago. These balls of fire in the swampy area surrounding New Orleans is believed to be spirits or fairies and thought to have the souls of loved ones. They can also appear in a malevolent form that appear as balls of light, misleading those who encounter them. Their goal is to confuse people until they become lost. The wandering victims believe they see a house or a camp and will walk towards it until they either get more lost or drown. These ghostly lights have also been reported in many southern Louisiana cemeteries and graveyards. One of the very oldest private cemeteries, Bibelot Cemetery in Lake Charles, has reported the mysterious lights since the 1840s. The Grunch road monster, also known as New Orleans Grunch, is reported to be a chupacabra-like creature. It is described as being an elaborate cross between a canid and reptilian chupacabra. Sightings and tales, unlike its cousins, seem to go back further in Louisiana history than in any other areas of the world. Most commonly, the New Orleans Grunch is said to be a goat-like creature with leathery or scaly black-gray skin, sharp spines, and long horns or quills running down its back. The creature stands about 3 or 4 foot high. It is also reported to be more intelligent and even have human-like skills like opening doors and using tools. It is reported to howl like a wolf, scream like a banshee, or bellow and screech like an ape, as well as leave a strong stench. Many reports say the creature's eyes also glow a red, orange, or blue-green in color. Some have even reported seeing bat-like wings and a tail. An old voodoo story says that Marie Laveau castrated the devil baby when he was born to prevent him from producing more of his kind. The testicles allegedly turned into the male and female Grunch and fell to the floor. They then proceeded to attack Marie Laveau. It is said that the Grunch almost killed her and she fainted. When she came to, the Grunch and the devil baby were gone. Some stories say that this is when Marie Laveau gave up her voodoo ways and went back to being a good Catholic woman. While reports of the Grunch have come from several areas in Louisiana, most come from Grunch Road. Some people claim the Grunch Road legends was in Chalmette, Louisiana, while others claim it was Gentilly or Metairie. But the real Grunch Road is located in the remote part of eastern New Orleans, near the community of Little Woods. The road is a dead-end road with shells and sand, sheltered by overgrown woods and tall water oaks that lead into a ferny darkness off the major two-lane highway of Haine Boulevard. Sightings of goat people, ghosts, strange lights, and cries have been reported to this day. The creature is reported to take pets and drain the animal's blood and sometimes organs through a single hole. Many people have also reported seeing them knocking over trash cans looking for food.